Okay, the first thing we're going to do is divide our paper into fourths. This is a 12 by 12 inch square. So you're going to put your ruler on you're going to put the beginning of the ruler on the edge of the paper. And the beginning of my ruler does not start on the edge of the ruler. It starts on the edge of the measuring. So I'm putting on this first line, and then I'm going to put a dot on 6. Slide my ruler down. Do the same thing. Then draw a line all the way across. You do not want it dark. Hold your pencil at the top and draw a line straight down. Now you turn the paper and do the same thing. Put the beginning of the measurement, the beginning of the ruler on the edge of the paper, and put a dot on the 6-inch mark. Do the same thing down here. Okay. Alright. Then we got to do a drawing of a pear, and I have a reference photo for you to look at. And if you'll remember, we break it down into basic shapes, like there's a sphere with a sphere on top of it. So let me move this piece of paper. We want to make sure we fill up the paper, so I'm going to draw a sphere until I get the shape of it that I want. And I want to make sure that I have enough room to leave the cast shadow. And then there's another sphere on top of it, but it's not directly on top of it. It's leaning a little bit. Then you connect it and shape it up some. And then you erase what shouldn't be there. Alright, and then you fine tune it some. Well, there's a stem up here, which is like a cylinder, a curved cylinder. This overlaps into the pear, has a little bit of a crevice there. This comes around and it's kind of lumpy down here. So you would put your details into this drawing. Then draw the angle of the cast shadow. So if I look at my pear, the cast shadow is below halfway. Goes up at an angle a little bit. Curves in like the pear does, and then comes down in front of the pear. Just like that. Then you color the back of it dark, but first you need to make sure you can see your lines through the paper. Okay, and then turn it over so you can see the lines through the paper, and then you're going to shade it dark everywhere you see a line. Alright, and then you want to make sure that you make it dark enough that it's going to show up. Alright, then you take this and put it on the paper that you just fourthed. And on each box, you're going to trace it. So if I go over and bear down pretty well with my pencil, I'm going to lift it up and see that it's transferring. So you're going to do that 4 times. Okay? Then, so you'll do that 4 times. Then I've got an example of a finished one here. You're going to start the color value chart the color chart for, these are 4 different color harmonies. And you've got to choose the color that you want to use. I used magenta as my beginning color, okay? And whatever color you use is going to determine the other colors. So when I chose magenta, I knew that when I chose the complementary color, which is across from it, the rest of the pictures is going to be done in reds and green, the red families and the green families. So just keep that in mind when you choose a color. So I did mine in magenta, and I'm going to show you how to do the first, the value scale up here. And this is going to be used to help us see the different values that's going to be used in the monochromatic painting of the pear. So let me show you how I did that. I've got my color palette, and I don't have a lot of paint on my color palette, but I do have magenta that I'm going to use to make the tints, magenta and titanium white that I'm using to make the tints. And then I'm mixing a black with ultramarine blue and burnt umber. When you mix the black, the pictures usually come out richer, and they're more vibrant. So let me show you how I did this. If you add white to a color, it's going to be a tint. If you add black to a color, it's going to be a shade. Now, let me use the tip of my paintbrush, the handle, to do the mixing. And if you do that directly on top of it, it'll keep it from spreading out too far and not being able to use the paint. So mix it really well. And it's called a mixed black instead of right out of the tube. Now you can use black, it's just a different effect. So what you're going to do is you're going to put the actual hue right here in the middle. The hue is the name of the color. So magenta is the hue that I'm using. You can use either magenta or just red. The color mixing set that I got from Blick uses magenta for their color mixing for red. So you put the paintbrush down and you don't pick it up until you're done with the line. Then for the tints, I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to put a little bit of white in the red. And I'm going to get just a shade lighter right here. I'm going to go down the edge of it. Go down the edge of it. Don't pick it up till you're done with the line or you run out of paint. Then you'll get a little bit lighter. Put more white in it. And make sure it's a step lighter than the one before. So go down the line. And then this one will be much lighter. And you could keep going and going and going until you have it all the way to white. Okay. Now I'm going to wash my brush out, and whenever you add gray to a color, it makes it less intense and less of the pure color that it is. So if you add white to a color, it does make it less intense too, but you don't want to add gray on the value scale unless that's the color you want. Here we're adding white on one side and adding black on the other. Don't mix the gray and add it to it, because it just makes it a lot less intense for this particular project. Now I'm going to mix a tiny bit of black into my red or magenta. Remember, it's a lot harder to get it lighter than it does darker, so we're just going a little bit at a time. We just want to make it one step darker than the original hue. Okay, and then we'll put more black into it. I'm just picking it up with my paintbrush, a little bit on my paintbrush, and I'm going to put a little bit more on there because I want it to be a definite difference. That's probably too close. Let's put a little bit more black. Okay. I'm off my paintbrush some. Blend this out. Okay, and then a lot of black. Okay, so that is going to be, those are going to be the colors that I will use on the first square of my painting, which is this one that's already finished. But this is the monochromatic one, Tints and Shades of Magenta. So you can choose any color you want to on the color wheel. It's easier if you choose a primary color because you don't have to mix the color to start off with. But if you want to use one of the other colors on the color wheel, you can, but that will also determine what you use on the rest of your painting. Okay.